that clearly there is a criminal investigation underway and that they believe that there would be evidence of crimes in one or both of these homes.
There has been some updates in the Diddy $100 million default judgment that we reported on.
Here's a shocking twist in the ongoing saga surrounding one of the biggest names in music. Sean Diddy Combs, the hip-hop legend and media mogul, is not just facing legal trouble, he's in the fight of his life. And if recent rumors are anything to go by, it seems like he's willing to take extreme measures to defend himself, even if it means threatening a judge. But how did things spiral this far out of control for someone who once seemed untouchable? Let's break it all down, because what's happening here is way bigger than just one man's legal issues. It's the story of a celebrity empire teetering on the edge, complete with drama, intrigue, and some seriously questionable decisions.
And Stacey, you say today's indictment reads like a mob indictment. What was most shocking to you of all these allegations?
Yeah, the fact, Jake, that the government in this indictment presented evidence alleging that Sean Combs was running a...
It all started when Diddy found himself staring down a mountain of meals that could ruin not only his reputation, but potentially his entire legacy. So make no mistake, these aren't just your run-of-the-mill charges. We're talking about some of the most serious accusations anyone could face. At the heart of the case, allegations of organized crime-level activity, including conspiracy charges and involvement in orchestrated events that raise more than just a few eyebrows. The prosecution isn't holding back either. They built their case around a series of disturbing claims with multiple alleged victims and incidents and spanning years.
Complete with very, very serious and salacious allegations, including allegations that Combs had cameras throughout his home.
Diddy naturally is desperate to get out of jail and begin mounting a full defense. After all, this isn't just a threat to his career. His entire personal life is now under scrutiny, and it's clear that these charges could send him away for a very long time.
The issue is, it seems as though he wants to kind of like exert power and dominance over people who don't really want it.
His legal team made a massive play, offering up an eye-watering $50 million in an attempt to secure his freedom while awaiting trial. But in a dramatic turn of events, the judge rejected the offer, citing concerns that Diddy posed a flight risk and, perhaps more critically, might interfere with the case by influencing witnesses or tampering with evidence.
And I remember, I don't know if you know what his voice sounds like, but I felt like I was in the presence of his monster inside.
Now, if you're thinking that's harsh, consider this: the judge didn't just base his decision on speculation. There's already been chatter about Diddy's extensive network of loyal associates and employees who could potentially be involved. With such vast resources and connections, it's easy to see why the court would be concerned. The judge's decision wasn't made lightly. It was a calculated move, signaling just how seriously the court is taking this case.
Now, so what is next? Is he going to be in jail in this facility until the trial begins? Is there a chance he could, get moved earlier than that?
As of this moment, as of this hour, as of today, yes. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to be appealing this thing next to the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals to overturn the judge's order here to try and get him actually released.
But this is where things take an even darker turn. Word on the street is that after the judge handed down the decision to deny bail, tensions exploded behind the scenes. Rumors began swirling that Diddy, already feeling the heat from being behind bars and seeing his empire crumble, allegedly made veiled threats against the judge. It's the kind of scandalous claim that you almost don't want to believe, but then again, the pressure on Diddy right now is enormous. Whether he actually made those threats or not, it's clear that his frustration is boiling over.
New at 5, the legal troubles continue for Sean Diddy Combs tonight after a judge ordered the music mogul to pay $100 million to a Michigan man who says that he was assaulted by Combs in '97.
According to court documents, Derek Cardello Smith says Combs and then assaulted him during an after party at a Holiday Inn in Detroit. But Combs never responded to the lawsuit.
The timeline of events around Diddy's arrest and the subsequent legal fallout paints a picture of someone who may have been blindsided by the speed and ferocity of the investigation. Just think about it. One day Diddy is living large, probably not imagining that a courtroom battle is lurking around the corner. And the next, he's behind bars, facing charges that could sound in. The arrest itself was something straight out of a movie, with federal agents swooping in. You can imagine the scene, Diddy, perhaps not fully aware of how dire his situation had become, being escorted out while the world watched in disbelief. When it comes to celebrities, especially someone with Diddy's influence, it's easy to forget that they're not immune to the law. And while the media has followed this case closely, there are still a lot of questions about what exactly led to the denial of his bail request.
The government is going to mandate that they are responsible for your well-being. They have to ensure the safety of your well-being.
For starters, his legal team put forward what they thought was an unbeatable offer. Not only was the money on the table, a jaw-dropping amount by any standard, but they also offered additional conditions.
Everything that you're looking at, they're all tied in together. Every part, as crazy as this seems, as outrageous as it seems, it all ties in. every bit of it.
Diddy's lawyers were prepared to agree to near total isolation with monitored visitation rights and random checks to ensure that he wasn't engaging in any kind of funny business. They even threw in the possibility of substance tests to sweeten the deal, all in a desperate attempt to secure his release. But none of that swayed the court. Why? The answer might lie in how high the stakes really are.
And if he's allowed to go through with any of the sales, I won't be able to recoup any of my monies or anything from him as a result of any possible judgment in this action, if he's allowed to proceed with it. And an injunction or a restraining order would help ensure that he's not manipulating and selling the property to avoid.
Diddy's wealth and status mean that he has the kind of access to private planes, secluded properties, and connections that would make this appearing pretty easy. There's also the matter of his influence, just how many people would be willing to help him out if he wanted to slip away. So the judge wasn't willing to take the risk, no matter how strict the conditions of his release might be. So in fact, the second judge, who was called in for an appeal, also saw through the defense arguments and doubled down on the decision to keep Diddy behind bars.
Well, either way, if you got to run to a private island because your evil doings are doing so much and they storming your house, it's one of these.
So as if that weren't enough, there's another reason the court might have been hesitant to release him: the evidence itself. During the initial hearing, prosecutors laid out a case that painted Diddy as more than just a music mogul gone astray. They framed him as the ringleader of a sophisticated criminal operation, one that exploited his power, wealth, and influence. According to the prosecution, Diddy wasn't just dabbling in questionable behavior, he was allegedly running the show.
Basically what that means is the money that they're saying Diddy has to start paying this guy on October 1st, right. Diddy's team is like, hold on, we need an emergency conversation about why this should not have been granted. And they awarded him a TRO, which basically meant that Diddy's team was not allowed to sell any property in that state or anything related to what could be used to pay the plaintiff.
And the most chilling part, these aren't just vague claims or empty threats from people trying to take him down. The accusations stem from multiple sources, with people coming forward to describe a deeply disturbing world behind the glamour of Diddy's public image. So one of the central accusations involves a series of lavish, over-the-top gatherings at Diddy's homes, where the lines between celebration and coercion allegedly blurred. And while details of these freak-off parties have been whispered about for years, it's now all coming to light in a way that's impossible to ignore.
Do you believe Diddy is a dangerous person?
Yes.
To make matters worse for Diddy, the FBI is reportedly involved, bringing even more weight to the investigation. When the federal government gets involved, you know things are serious. And while Diddy has managed to evade major scandals in the past, this time it seems like the authorities are determined to make an example out of him.
And in this lawsuit, he claims that essentially P. Diddy was the Epstein of the rap industry.
If you think things couldn't get any worse for Diddy, consider where he's currently being held, the notorious Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. This is a place that's a far cry from the life of luxury he's used to. MDC has a reputation for being one of the most challenging detention centers in the country, with harsh conditions that would be a shock to anyone, let alone a man who spent the better part of his life in mansions and on private jets. Inside MDC, Diddy is reportedly being held in the Special Housing Unit, which is essentially solitary confinement. It's a section of the facility reserved for those who need extra security, and it's a far cry from the lavish parties he used to host. The conditions in solitary are notoriously tough: minimal human interaction, strict control of movement, and of course, no access to the luxuries he's so accustomed to. To think about it, this is a man who's been surrounded by opulence for decades, and now he's isolated in a cold, cramped cell with nothing but time to think about the charges that could send him away for life.
The evidence, alleged evidence, that's been gathered in this case was from those two raids that were conducted on his personal homes in Miami and Los Angeles. And the indictment names the things seized that he allegedly made videos of these performances that have been named.
And the irony isn't lost on anyone. This is someone who used to throw some of the most extravagant parties in the world. There was a time when Diddy's name was synonymous with glamour. He's known for his infamous white parties, one is where the A-list would gather, dressed to the nines, indulging in the kind of luxury that only a select few ever experience. Now, those days are a distant memory as he faces the grim reality of life in one of the country's most notorious jails. So while Diddy waits behind bars, the legal case against him continues to build, and the details of his alleged criminal activities are as shocking as they are disturbing. The charges against him include not only orchestrating a series of illegal operations, but also allegations of manipulation and abuse that have shocked even those who thought they knew him best. But what's really turning heads is the way Diddy allegedly used his wealth and influence to control the people around him.
Interesting part here. And so what the plaintiff in this case did was filed for what we call a temporary restraining order, which would have prevented Diddy, or would prevent him from selling that Los Angeles home. And so we know, or at least we believe, that that TRO was granted to enjoin or stop him from selling that home.
At the center of the case is what prosecutors are describing as a criminal enterprise with Diddy at the helm. His so-called freak-off parties have become a key focus of the investigation, with witnesses claiming that these events were far from the carefree gatherings they appeared to be on the surface. Behind the scenes, these parties allegedly involved a series of planned, orchestrated events that were as dark as they were exclusive. The prosecution is painting a picture of a man who used his power to coerce and manipulate, creating an atmosphere where anything was possible for a price.
I had clients describe NBC as hell, as the worst conditions they've been in.
And it wasn't just the parties themselves that raised red flags. There are reports that these events were carefully documented, with Diddy allegedly recording everything that went on. This could be a crucial piece of evidence, especially if investigators managed to get their hands on these recordings. Some rumors even suggest that these videos were used as leverage, potentially allowing Diddy to control those who participated, ensuring they're silent. It's the kind of story you only hear about in movies, but now it's playing out in real life, and it's hard to believe just how far-reaching this case might be. What's clear is that Diddy's life as he knew it is over, at least for now. His legal team is scrambling to keep up, but with every day that passes, more details emerge that paint a very different picture of the man who once stood at the pinnacle of the entertainment world. From the outside, it looks like a fall from grace on an epic scale, and the public is left wondering how it all went so wrong.
That this is the end of the Diddy story as we know it.
And yet, through it all, Diddy maintains his innocence. His lawyers are working overtime, insisting that the charges are nothing more than an attempt to tear down a successful man. They claim that the people coming forward are motivated by greed, looking for a payday at Diddy's expense. But as the investigation continues, public opinion is beginning to shift. After all, this isn't the first time Diddy's name has been connected to controversy, though this time the stakes are higher than ever before. But the story doesn't stop at Diddy being stuck in the notorious Metropolitan Detention Center. Oh no, it goes much deeper, and the shocking revelations keep coming. Let's get into the part that's got everyone talking: the raids on his lavish homes. If you thought things couldn't get worse, the federal raid might just be the final nail in the coffin for Diddy's once glittering reputation. Picture this: federal agents storming into his properties, uncovering evidence that paints an even darker picture of his alleged activities.
I saw it posted yesterday all over our social media pages. Cassie filed a lawsuit in New York City against Diddy.
Yikes.
She's claiming she was stuck in a decade-long cycle of abuse.
Sources have been buzzing about what the authorities found when they descended on Diddy's multi-million-dollar homes. According to those in the know, the items recovered during the raids were nothing short of shocking. We're talking about a stash that included enormous quantities of personal products, one typically used for, let's say, very private gatherings. We're not just talking about a couple bottles here and there. No, what was reportedly uncovered suggests that these weren't your ordinary get-togethers, but part of a highly organized operation, and the sheer volume of the materials found is enough to raise serious questions about just how long these parties had been going on, and more importantly, who else might have been involved.
Controlled every aspect of her life. He is accused of frequently beating her and would hide her in hotel rooms for days until the bruising and signs of abuse were gone.
You can almost imagine the scene: agents rifling through luxury closets, uncovering not just personal items, but evidence that points to something much more sinister. This wasn't just a casual raid to gather surface-level information. It seems like the authorities had a specific target in mind, and they struck gold. Rumor has it they've seized items that could potentially link Diddy to several of the most disturbing allegations, adding fuel to the fire that's already been burning around his name.
Rumors are that Diddy was running some kind of Epstein-type deal where he was filming everybody, right?
That's the rumors, yeah. I don't know that there's any proof or anything other than that.
But here's where things get even more unbelievable. Reports are swirling that during these infamous events, Diddy wasn't just a passive participant, he was allegedly orchestrating the entire thing. Insiders describe a scene where Diddy took control of every aspect, from who was invited to what went down once the doors were closed. These events were apparently more than just exclusive parties. According to multiple witnesses, Diddy would personally oversee the arrangements, ensuring everything went according to his design, so almost as if he relished the role of a puppet master, pulling the strings to create a highly charged environment where anything could happen, and a paravenostic environment where anything could happen, and apparently did.
Diddy has been under criminal investigation for months by federal prosecutors here in New York, and if there are criminal charges, many of them may look a lot like what some of these individuals have been describing.
What's even more disturbing is the way Diddy allegedly used these private gatherings to manipulate and control people. According to sources close to the investigation, the attendees were lured into a false sense of security, believing they were just part of an elite circle enjoying an extravagant lifestyle. But the reality was farker. Word has it that Diddy would secretly record these events, capturing intimate moments without the participants' permission.
There are some problems that the defense has brought up originally, but it seems like, just from reading this 14-page indictment, indictment, that there is enough physical evidence to perhaps get a conviction in this case. We shall see.
And if the rumors are to be believed, these recordings were then used as leverage, blackmail to be more specific. So the narrative floating around suggests that Diddy might have kept these tapes of his vault, ready to use them against anyone who dared cross them. This is where the case really begins to take a dangerous turn, because as evidence exists, it doesn't just point to illegal activity, it points to a pattern of coercion and control that stretches back years.
Well, if he really was filming everybody, I mean, he had a lot of people at those parties, right?
It's no surprise, then, that the authorities are reportedly focusing on this angle as they build their case. After all, we're not just talking about one or two incidents here. What's being described is a systemic pattern of manipulation, where people who thought they were attending glamorous, star-studded events found themselves trapped in a much darker web. Some insiders are even suggesting that this is what the FBI was after when they raided Diddy's properties, the recordings that could blow this case wide open. And speaking of the FBI, their involvement in this case is only adding to the drama. So let's not forget, federal raids of this magnitude don't happen without significant cause. The FBI doesn't just go knocking down doors without a solid reason. The fact that they were so heavily involved from the start speaks volumes about the seriousness of the charges against Diddy. These agents are no strangers to high-profile cases, but even they were reportedly taken aback by what they discovered.
This is in the matter of Derek Lee Cardello Smith, MDOC number 267009 versus Sean Combs, Sean Puff Daddy Combs, also known as Sean P. Diddy, also known as Diddy, Bad Boy Records label owner.
The raid also reportedly uncovered something that has raised even more alarm: firearms. Yes, that's right, Diddy was allegedly found in possession of multiple weapons. And these aren't just your run-of-the-mill firearms. According to insiders, the types of weapons discovered suggest that they weren't just for personal protection. The presence of these weapons is reportedly being tied directly to the allegations that Diddy used intimidation and threats to maintain control over those around him. Imagine the scene, a sprawling mansion filled with luxury goods and hidden weapons, suggesting that this wasn't just about protection, but about power and control. Now, you might be thinking, how does all of this tie into the legal battle Diddy's currently facing? Well, it all comes back to the RICO charges. For those unfamiliar, RICO, short for Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, is typically reserved for organized crime cases. So the fact that Diddy's being hit with these charges indicates that the authorities see him as more than just a celebrity gone rogue. They're building a case that suggests Diddy was running an entire criminal enterprise, one that involved more than just illegal parties. They're alleging that he built a network of associates who helped him maintain power through fear, intimidation, and violence.
These are all allegations that have become shockingly familiar against Diddy in recent months, as he has faced lawsuit after lawsuit from women and men who have accused him of all manner.
And that's where things get really intense. Because if the prosecution can prove that Diddy was the head of this so-called criminal organization, he could be facing decades behind bars. And with the evidence that's reportedly piling up, it's looking more and more like the authorities have a solid case. The discovery of the firearms only strengthens the RICO charges, tying Diddy directly to the control and intimidation tactics that prosecutors are alleging he used to run his empire. So where does Diddy go from here? His defense team is, of course, fighting tooth and nail to get these charges dismissed. But it's hard to ignore the overwhelming amount of evidence that's reportedly being collected. The media circus surrounding the case is also making things even harder for Diddy, as every new piece of information seems to paint him in a worse light. His legal team is working overtime, but even they have to know that this is an uphill battle.
Notes. Not only should he have apologized to Cassie in that video, he should have apologized to all of the general public that he lied to.
Yeah. What's fascinating is how public opinion has shifted over the course of this saga. There was a time when Diddy was considered one of the most influential figures in entertainment. He was the man who could do no wrong, someone who built an empire from the ground up. But now the narrative has shifted dramatically. People are starting to question whether they ever really knew the real Diddy. Was he always this manipulative figure hiding behind a facade of success? Or is this just another case of a powerful person being torn down by rumors and allegations? It's a question that's on everyone's mind as this story continues to unfold.
Dawn had the choice to file the case as a Jane Doe, and she chose not to do that. After giving it a fair amount of thought, she wants accountability.
And the rumors? Oh, they're flying fast and furious. There are whispers that Diddy isn't the only one involved in this web of manipulation. Some are speculating that several high-profile figures, celebrities we all know, were regulars at these so-called freak-offs. So the tapes that are rumored to exist ever surface, this case could implicate a lot more people than just Diddy. That's why this investigation is so massive. It's not just about bringing down one man. So about exposing an entire network of people who might have been complicit in these activities. But here's where things take yet another twist. Some insiders are saying that Diddy knew this day was coming. According to certain sources, Diddy started making moves months before his arrest, selling off assets and preparing for what was clearly a mounting legal storm. If that's true, it suggests that Diddy was well aware of how deep he was in and was making plans to protect what he could. The rumors even go as far as suggesting that Diddy was planning to flee the country before his arrest, which would explain why the judge was so adamant about denying bail. It all paints a picture of a man who saw the writing on the wall and was desperately trying to hold onto whatever control he had left.
Diddy is now being sued in addition to what we just talked about by Dawn Richards. You guys will remember her. She was a part of Making the Band.
Dirty Money.
Dirty Money, the Danny Kane era. So basically what she is alleging, she's alleging a lot of different...
As this case continues to unravel, one thing is becoming crystal clear. This isn't just about one man's fall from grace. It's about exposing the dark side of fame and fortune, where the powerful believe they can get away with anything. Diddy's legal team can protest his innocence all they want, but with the mountain of evidence reportedly being gathered, it's becoming harder and harder to see how they're going to pull this one off. And here's where it gets even more complicated. While Diddy's team is trying to control the narrative, there are those within his inner circle who are reportedly starting to talk. Some of his former employees and associates are coming forward with their own stories, painting a damning picture of life inside the Diddy empire. One source, who asked to remain anonymous, said that working for Diddy was like walking on eggshells. You never knew what was going to set him off, they claimed. One minute, everything's fine, and the next, you're being threatened. These allegations are only adding to the growing sense that Diddy's empire wasn't just built on talent and hard work, but also on fear and intimidation. If these accounts are true, it would explain why so many people have remained silent for so long. It's possible that Diddy's control over those around him was so strong that no one felt safe enough to speak out, until now. With the authorities breathing down his neck and the media exposing every new detail, it seems that the walls are finally closing in. So with all of these shocking details unraveling, what do you think? Could Diddy really have orchestrated such a vast and disturbing network? Or is this just a case of a celebrity empire under attack by those looking for their 15 minutes of fame? And what about the rumors of other high-profile names potentially being implicated? How deep do you think this rabbit hole goes? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.